Hello everyone, welcome to Things in the Night. It's a vampire Markiplier fic. Near midnight, the streets of Cincinnati, Ohio were darkened by shadows, created by the artificial lights of the city. Even in the dead of night, there was still life to the streets as people went about their routines. That's all it was for him, by now, a routine. He wandered the streets, keeping as much to the shadows as possible. He was out there for a purpose, and unwanted attention was something he would not deal with. He situated himself near a street corner and leaned up against the wall. He was waiting, hunting, as he usually did. Vampirism is more of a curse than he expected, and constantly being cautious of passers-by and how long he could stay outside made his life more tedious than it needed to be. An addition of a thirst for blood was just the cherry on top of the shit sundae. Every other night was what it calculated out to be. Every other night he needed to feed. He tried animal blood, but nothing satisfied his hunger quite like the thick, deep banquet of human blood. Although the process was messy, and the morals of it quite dubious, he had no other choice. He either fed, or he went without and starved to death, or more appropriately, starved to dust. He first spotted the woman when she stumbled out of the bar, tripping over her own feet, but still a bit unbalanced on her 3-inch high heels. A fatal grin spread over his features as he locked onto his target for the night. He waltzed across the street to follow her, keeping a good distance behind her. He had to wait for the opportune moment. It was when the woman stumbled and fell, he closed in on her. He offered a hand to the girl, fraying worry. She peered at him, and the drunken grin sank off her face as she made eye contact with him. "Hey, are you okay? Need a hand?" He knew this one was a winner already. Yeah, sure, thanks. I'm okay," she mumbled as she took his hand. He helped her up and kept a hold of her hand as she righted herself. It was all part of routine now. Find a target, seduce target, feed. "May I know your name?" "My name is Mark." He brought the hand up to his lips and gave the back of her hand a small kiss. She smiled and let out a nervous giggle. She wobbled again in her drunken state and ended up tripping directly onto Mark. He caught her easily and half suspected that she did that on purpose. He peered down at the woman, only now inches away from him, as she kept a light hold on her wrist. He smiled down at her. "A bit tipsy, I see. You should rest for a moment." He led her over to an alley just next to them. She followed almost eagerly under his hypnotizing gaze. She leaned up against one of the buildings whose towering walls created the alley. They were well hidden in the shadows, and the chance of anyone seeing them was low. It was just too perfect. Mark had let go of the woman's wrist and now allowed her to stand on her own. He had moved now, though, or else she may start wandering away. He closed in front of her and lifted her chin with a single finger, having her look up at him. Although his vampirism was quite annoying, perks like a hypnotic gaze made trapping and holding his prey easy. He kept his glasses off during his nightly hunt, as he found they could hinder the effects of his hypnosis on others. A single hand rested on her hip while his other held her gaze with his. He caressed her cheek with his thumb and leaned close to her ear. "Close your eyes, love. This will only be a moment." His voice dripped low, hardly over the volume of a whisper. Her head lolled to the side as her eyes slid shut. Her throat was perfectly exposed. His lips grazed the flesh near her neck, pressing down in what she thought was a kiss. He was testing her pulse, finding where he should bite for the best result. Her blood rushed through her veins as her heart pounded. He pinpointed a spot where he could feel her heart beat easiest. He ran his tongue over his canines, which had elongated nearly half an inch and were sharp enough to rip through flesh easy. His lips pulled back in a snarl, and his jaw dropped open as he bit down into the woman's neck. The hand that had rested on her cheek quickly covered her mouth to stifle any scream or sound that she would make. His fangs punctured easy through the skin into the artery below. Blood gushed from the holes that he had made and flowed into his mouth. He eagerly sucked down every drop he could, draining her life essence. She struggled, but Mark easily held her down as he drank his heart's content from the dying girl's throat. The woman soon passed out, and Mark pulled away from her. The crimson fluid coating his lips and dripped down his chin. He let go of her, and she slumped to the ground, where she most likely would bleed to death in that alley. Mark's tongue darted out between his lips as he cleaned up what he could from his mouth. He plucked a piece of cloth from his back pocket and used it to clean up the rest. He was careful to leave no sign of blood on him, as being coated with blood amazingly attracts attention. He slips the cloth back into his back pocket and checked his clothes for any stains. When he was content with his appearance, he stepped out quickly through the alley and walked out to the other side. Mark knew that he only had a few more hours until the sun would rise, and he can't be outside much longer. He made his way back home to his apartment on foot. The woman's body was found the next morning, having bled out in the alley. As always, the killer was never found, as nobody would believe the crooners when they announced that the fatal wound appeared to be two perfectly circular holes in her throat that had pierced her her carotid artery. It seems too much like a bad horror story. Dozens of men, women, all killed in the same way, all bled out, all in alleys, and with that telltale puncture wound in the neck. To the police department, it was a case that would never be solved, but out of the lack of evidence and the incredibility of it. To Mark, however, it was just routine. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.